Hey guys, welcome back to the video. So today we are going to understand AWS IAM, which stands for Identity and Access Management. It is basically used to provide access to users. IAM is a service that controls who can access your AWS resources and what actions they can perform. We'll be covering three main concepts here, which is users, groups, and roles. Then I'll show you a hands-on demo of how to create a new user and sign into that account. Okay, so we're going to start with IAM users. So users are actually people who are going to access AWS, right? Each user can have a username and password to sign into the AWS Management Console or access keys for accessing through the CLI or SDKs. By default, users have no permissions, but you can attach policies to them so that way you can provide certain access to the user. As I explained in the last video, we should never use our root account. We need to create a new IAM account for each user, and we have to restrict the access because we can't provide access to everything to anybody, right? Only an administrator should have access to everything. So think of it as a employee account in your company. Each person needs their own account, so action can be tracked and permissions can be controlled. Okay, next up we have IAM groups. So groups are nothing but a collection of users. So instead of assigning permissions to each user one by one, you can attach a policy to a group, and all users in that group automatically inherit those permissions. For example, you might have a developers group in your company, or a testers group, um, or a DevOps group. So let's say you have a developers group with permissions to use EC2 and S3, and an admin group with full access. So this makes user management much easier because you don't want developers to have admin access, right? Because their job is different and they shouldn't have access to everything. So using IAM, you can control who can access what in the system, right? And the third most important concept is roles. So roles are a little different from users. A role does not have a username or password. Instead, it is a set of permissions that can be temporarily assumed by trusted entities. This is useful in three main scenarios. For example, AWS services. Now you want an EC2 instance to be able to access S3 buckets, but you don't want to give it permanent access. You want it to access for a certain period of time. In that situation, you can attach a role to that EC2 instance. So that way it will be a temporary access, and once that access is expired, the EC2 instance can no longer access the bucket. So that way you can control um, how long you want it to be able to access other resources in your system. You can do that for users as well. If you have a user, or if somebody from a developers group wants to access something that he doesn't have access to, but he needs to use it for his work, so in that situation you can attach a role, you can to that particular user with temporary access, so that way they can just access that part of the system temporarily, finish their job, and then their access will be revoked. Okay, so that's all the theory of IAM, which is users, groups, and roles. Next, I'll show you how to actually create a new IAM user inside the AWS console, and we'll also log in with that user so that you can understand the complete flow. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to the console, and we're gonna go to IAM here. So on the left, you will see user, groups, users, roles, policies. As I explained, groups, users, roles, and policies, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new user, right? So say I am a new joinee to the company and I want access to AWS, right? So I'll just go to IAM. As an admin, I'll go to the IAM system, I'll go to users, I'll create a new user from here. Let's say we have a new user, John. So we're going to put John here. Next, and now we have to assign him to a group. You can attach policies by yourself, like you can attach individual policies, but it's always better to add them to a group in your company. Say you have a developers group and John is a developer, so you would rather have John in the developers group than assign developer policies individually to John. So right now I have a user group called Terraform. But if you want to create a new group, you would just go here, create group, and he's a developer, right? So we want him to have access to EC2. So I'm gonna say Amazon EC2 full access. So he'll have access to just the EC2 resources in the system and nothing else. So that way you can control what he's able to access in the system, right? So for now, we are gonna provide him administrator access, and we're gonna attach him to the group that we have right now. We'll attach him to the Terraform group, and then we're gonna select next. So this is the complete information. So the username is John. We don't have a console password for him yet. um, we don't have a required password reset, so you can also set it up so that when John signs up for the first time, he'll have to reset the password and he can set his own password. So we're just gonna click on create user. Okay, so as you can see, our user John is now created, and this is his complete information. Now the next thing is, we want John to be able to access the console. The user is created, but he doesn't have access yet. We don't have John's password or username right now. So we'll go to security credentials, and we'll have to provide him console access. So we're going to click on enable console access, and then we can either auto generate the password or we can use a custom password as well. We're going to stick with auto generated for now. So we're going to click on enable console access. Okay, and then we are going to save this information so that we don't lose it. And so if you're working in a company, you can just provide this information to John and he'll be able to get into his account. And it's always advised to create an IAM account before you can make, like, before you do anything in the console. Never use your root account to do anything, because even by mistake, if you expose any confidential information, anybody can access your account. And I'll tell you, AWS bills can go so crazy that you wouldn't even recognize before it's too late. Okay, so next up, we want to see how John will be able to access his account in the console. So the first thing we'll have to do is we'll have to sign out of our root account, because otherwise AWS wouldn't let us sign into a different account. So we're gonna sign out from here, and we'll use the console URL that we saw earlier, and we're gonna open it up here. Okay, so that's the link. That's the console URL for John. We're gonna put his username here, and we're gonna get the password as well. Okay, and then we're just gonna sign into his account. Okay, so now this is John's account. So um, John started working, and now he can just go to EC2 and get started with his work. He can do, right now he has admin access, so he can basically access almost everything. But if you look at the billing account, he wouldn't be able to access it because that is restricted for the root user. So as you can see, he has access denied here, since he is a IAM user and not a root user. But at the same time, if I go back to my root account and take a look at the billing information, I can actually see it. um, okay, as you can see here, this is my billing dashboard. But if I go to John's account, since his account is restricted, he cannot access the information. So that is how you set up a new user into your company um, for access to your AWS servers and the entire AWS ecosystem. So yeah, that was all about IAM. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you staying till the end. And if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much. See you in the next one.